to COVID, because prisons are now back in the COVID crosshairs. Cases are rising. Now prisons nationwide have paused their visitation because they don't want people to bring the virus with them when they stop by. For now, visitation is still open at Oregon prisons. Let's hope it stays that way. But a viewer named Susan reminded us that visitors aren't the only people who bring stuff into prisons. She wrote and said, with another inmate dying from COVID-19 last week, why aren't staff required to get the vaccine? Too crowded for social distancing. And it is a great point. And I'm certain that the governor agrees with you, because she is requiring them to get the vaccine. They are state employees, and under the governor's orders, if they don't get fully vaccinated by October 18th, they will lose their jobs. And according to this article from OPB, they have some ground to gain. Despite having early access to the vaccine, only about half of the state's 4,500 prison employees have been vaccinated. They got that early access because our prisons have been COVID hotspots since the onset of the virus, and for pretty obvious reasons. Kind of tough to stay away from people in there. And that priority status that they got to bump them to the front of the line seemed to work out pretty well at slowing down the spread. The vaccine, if you remember, first arrived in Oregon in December of 2020. A month later, in January, things were getting pretty bad. Oregon prisons reported 333 new cases. Then by May, 5 months later, after people were getting vaccinated, they reported just 16 active cases. But now we're starting to see those numbers climb back up again, only slightly, but they are climbing back up. According to the DOC, there are now 32 current active cases across the state. And yesterday, a male inmate at Two Rivers who tested positive for COVID died in the infirmary. They've not released the exact cause of death. All we know is that when he died, he had COVID. We don't know a ton about this person, or even if he was vaccinated. Only 86% of our inmates are, which does seem like a pretty decent percentage if you ask me, though not nearly enough to impress the Prison Policy Initiative. They gave Oregon prisons an F grade for the state's COVID prison response. Now keep in mind, this is a nonprofit that advocates against mass incarceration, so they're not really big fans of prisons to begin with, but they judged every state and every prison in those states by 4 categories: inmate population reductions, total inmate infections and mortality, total inmate vaccinations, and basic health needs for inmates, which includes mental health. Oregon only passed in one category, which was the 86% of inmates vaccinated with at least their first dose, which was determined in June. In total, 42 states failed with an F grade. California and New Jersey got the highest scores of the study, a C- and C, respectfully. They weren't giving out a lot of A's.